Module 5, Unit 4, Behavioral Security Concepts. In this unit, our objective is to explain the importance of written policies and procedures to ensure behavioral security. And then we will describe the basic principles for handling confidential information and list some privacy and usage issues for corporate systems, including internet and social media sites. Policies and procedures. Let me ask you first, what comes into your mind? When it comes to policies and procedures, we are already exposed to this, raised by this from school and then when you're at work. So policies are, are guide, for employees to follow in a secure behavior, to secure behavior as well. So these are ground rules actually. And then it's similar to it's the difference with procedure is that policies are like official rules to follow. These are restrictions, ground rules that everyone should adhere so that we have a secure and safe environment. When it comes to differentiate policies, the difference with standard is that standards are like a reference point. These are a basis for performing an activity, for creating some activity. Even in general, we have like a standard to achieve or a reference point, whether we achieve a standard or whether we are below standard, or something to reference whether we are performing above standards. So when it comes to procedures naman, these are step by steps, no guidelines that to follow, starting from ground to up, no, from step one to the last steps, that needs to be executed accordingly. And then guidance is, on the other hand, is like when there is no references, or when there's no basis, somehow you see signs not to follow. So that's a guidance. You follow a pattern, you follow a behavior or an activity. Those are examples of guidance, no? When it comes to security concepts. So, personal management policies naman is about, something to do with HR activities, HR management, company management. No? So there are policies, to govern the phases of employment. When we say phases of employment, it is actually from recruitment stage to operation, and then to termination or separation. So there are policies now when you are recruiting, there should be a validated, identity. There should be a background check. There should be some references. There should be documents to present na to in order to confirm the qualification when hiring. So I mean, every word that I said about recruitment, there are corresponding policies. And there are also policies when it comes to operation. This is while working na. After hiring, so when operation, there are policies like ano yung, for example, anong time to come in, anong time to come out, when is the break time, no? And then ano yung mga areas to work, and then what are allowed, what are not allowed, and what are the tools na pag to be used, and how to handle I mean everything, the equipment, and when you are working with the computer, may mga operational procedures din dyan and policies. And when it comes to termination and separation, of course, meron din. Starting from handing over the you know the equipment that being used, handing back the computer, for example, and then may mga iba pa, meron pa mga clearance, no, di ba? Or mga exit interviews, or sometimes yung policies when it comes to employees perspective, yung like separation and benefits, no, yung mga separation pay, and then mga legal, ano din, mga legal policies that a company to follow, and then an employee to agree and to respect, and the respect should be on both sides syempre. So policies dyan is not only internal, not only personal, but also merong governmental din concerns na being considered, especially na sa company side. I mean, the policy should be written according to the labor code, for example, to government rules, and then to mga employment what is this, employment labor conditions then, or employment laws, yeah. And then may mga typical policies when it comes to personal management, yung privilege management. What are you allowed? What are you entitled with? Sinong may authority, no? And then meron din sa data or information handling. Of course, these are company data o kaya even personal data. May policies dyan ng personal management when it should be private, and it should be stored, and then it should be released in a proper way na hindi ma-exploit in public. And then even on incident response are like in emergency cases, not only during fire, no, not only for natural disaster, but on business operations then, lalo na sa IT. Pag may mga outages, may mga downtime, may mga policies dyan like who are the people involved, anong mga tools na gagamitin, anong mga documentation or communication means to follow, those things, no, when it comes to incident response, and including the use of devices. This is also important, just like any policies, because there should be some a proper use of devices, no, and devices allowed to use, and the services from service providers, from power to utility. Make company policies, make contracts. Like for example, internet access. May policies dyan while at work, or if it is for business use, things like that, di ba? Those are the typical policies that you will encounter when it comes to personal management policies. And then you're familiar with this, di ba? Disciplinary procedures. At schools, it's common, of course. Pag may mga, mga violation, pag mayroong mga unfair activities, no? It falls to this category. Dapat may mga sanctions. Dapat may mga level of approach to control a secure environment, to execute a secure behavior. Now, when it comes to naman to handling confidential information, from the word itself, it's confidential. So it's very critical, it's very important, and it requires some privacy, of course. So in handling a confidential information, it starts with classifying the documents. Is this a financial document? Is this a personal document, or employee's document, or client, a customer agreement, or a document relating to business or strategies, or and so on. So you need to classify that in order to categorize the level of confidentiality to imply. So meron di so there will be training, of course, from organizing and handling confidential and sensitive information. Training in a sense in on recognizing is that you need to label it, and then store it, that through indexing, for example, what kind of information is that, what kind of document, and what classification of document now when it comes to labeling, especially, diba? And then when you're handling confidential and sensitive information, may training dyan like how to retrieve information, how to make it understand with other entity or other party dealing with confidential information. Lalo, it's very sensitive. sensitive in a way na marami maapektuhan o kaya i-trigger sa mga, negative or even positive behavior. So may training dyan how to handle those kind of confidential information. Speaking of confidential information, passwords are confidential information. There is a proper way to handle this, from managing passwords, even creating passwords to uh, terminating passwords. May proper handling dyan. Uh, this one is the personally identified information are very significant, not only as a best practice, but may mga political or governmental laws when it comes to personal privacy. So people are, aware of this. In US, they are very sensitive sa mga personal information because malakas ang ano dito, identity theft. And second, there's so many, I mean, there are many cases na na-exploit ang mga na-expose or compromise personal IDs, personal identifiable information. Now, when it comes to company confidential information, to handle that, there's so many policies and procedures, no? Like from storing confidential information or create, I mean, even for disposing old information, lalo na pag confidential, ano talaga yan, sinishred pa nga minsan, lalo na yung mga documented information. So, may proper transmittal, no, and disclosure. These are things na you could be subject for, libel or legal suit, no? I mean, it's not libel. That's another story, no? Legal suit when a company confidential information is somehow compromised or exploited. And then even customer confidential information, he don't share this. I mean, companies work very hard to get customer data, no? And this customer information belongs to another company na meron din silang policies there that when they are giving away their information, when it in business or partnership, may mga policies dyan. And to handle it is starts from recognizing or identifying the policies and procedures, and then comply with that, and then make it as a standard or make it as a reference, document it, share it. Share the policies so that everyone would know. No, and then meron din tinatawag na acceptable use policies. What do we mean by this? Ito yung something like sa mga while at work or using a device, lalo na sa company, especially sa government, no? Or no, these are policies, no, used by companies or businesses to govern or to regulate. I was thinking regulate, no, to rule an employee. Rule in, not meaning that not in a sense na slavery, no, but to govern. Yun na lang gamitin natin, to govern, no? Para merong what is this, a policy to follow, lalo na pa when using a company property or while working at company. So may mga diyan, may mga sometimes they call it employees handbook, sometimes they call it company handbook, ganon. So, yan ang acceptable in how to work, how to use, and then how to work with people. So, may rules of behavior, even in talking, no? While communicating with people, sending emails, so may mga may mga sensitive behavior na iniiwasan dyan yung what we call harassment. So, those are made to be clear, special as coming from the management, lalo na sa HR. So yung mga personally owned devices, may mga acceptable use of policies. May mga companies na very strict na, na nilalagay sa locker ang mga personal devices, lalo sa mga, mga secure manufacturing area, production area na you don't bring your bag because there are parts o kaya mga expensive components that cannot be easily tracked, no? So may mga ganon. Or even at the office, using phones while at work. So may mga policies dyan na they know na during working hours, no, you don't spend too much time doing social media. Actually, sometimes it's not really allowed. May mga cases dyan na employees get terminated because of, whether aware or not aware in using personally owned devices, lalo na smartphones, no? Everyone has smartphones. Now, let's talk about privacy policy. Privacy policy is very, important uh, concern, lalo na dito sa US. So, may mga laws dyan, may mga privacy laws, not only from individual at public areas, but also on employee contracts. May mga, like for example, confidential agreement, no, disclosure agreement that when you work at the company, you don't, it remains with the company, no, and then you don't actually, no, it's for the protection of ano tawag dito, intellectual property, for example, or copyright, o kaya technology, na minsan may mga piracy, no, may mga fake employees na pinapadala ng mga competitors. So may mga laws dyan. Companies are very aware of this, and they are, very adamant to implement sanctions, no, pag may mga violations. So, may mga privacy din when it comes to workplace surveillance kasi may mga, 'di ba, uso ng camera ngayon that you can place everywhere, but if it violates, privacy, individual privacy, like at workplace, no, na nakikita yung ginagawa mo, na it doesn't have to. I mean, you are at work and you are hired for a reason. You are hired with corresponding procedures and processes. No, you qualified those, so the company should trust you and the environment should be trustworthy. So, putting surveillance, no, should be on public areas, common areas. It should not be focusing some, private rooms, lalo sa CR, dressing room, or on a certain person. That's somehow may mga masasagasaan dyan, policy, mga lalo mga governmental policy when it comes to privacy when monitoring data. So, may mga, even president, di ba? If you have heard that news, US president being, na demanda because of violation of privacy, yung tinatawag na Watergate, no? Yung tapping telephone lines. So, that's mga illegal surveillance yun. So, monitoring data, monitoring communications, or even physical monitoring, especially at workplace, it's a very sensitive activity, very sensitive policy that needs to be, carefully assessed, carefully executed, lalo na involving privacy. So what are expected on privacy? Now, what are expectations? Meaning, when we say expectation of privacy, it should be addressed, should be recognized, and then it should be made aware. No? So, pag may mga privacy issues, lalo na pag gumagana social networking, and then it involves people na very private, or those is not happy being, in social media. Unlike us, di ba? Filipino, we like this, no? But in US, there are, even the new generation doesn't like to be, involved or exposed in social networking. Meron pa rin ganon. And there are, meron naman talaga, mahilig talaga sa to be exposed is in social networking, no? Mga nagbibilang ng likes, but in social media may mga policy na rin dyan. You don't just post public information without, lalo na yung company, a company when posting something, may mga confidentiality issues na kinoconsider yan. And then whether may mga settings, no, when posting public and private messages, no, and uploading files, and it is to be checked and scrutinized whether it is good for sharing, whether it's good for distribution, or it's just for keeping. And even our individual data, di ba? When we, for example, social networking, may mga tayo dyan, information about ourselves. Even the companies using social networking sites, so they have policies and procedures na what to expose, what to share, what to announce, di ba? Internet service providers. May mga ano din yan, privacy. Ang ina-expect dyan is may mga ano yan eh, mga terms of agreement, o di ba? That when they're using their service, they don't want to be liable pag may mga compromise information, ganun ba? Something, it's an example, not exactly, but those are expectations na yung privacy ng very individual, even company na should be intact, hindi nako-compromise. Because any information na dumada na internet is subject for exposure and exploitation. La, usage of data sa mga web search engines is very significant when it comes to privacy. May mga case studies dyan, may mga policies dyan na because web search is actually uh, should be program and approved in a way na it is searching for formal purposes with honest intentions, hindi yung searching for something na very searching for very sensitive information or something that would really create a conflict. So expectations of privacy should made to be known, clear, and explained, no? And there are laws, as I repeatedly said, no, when it comes to data collection, even on data collection and storage. If it is not yours, don't store it. And if it is not yours, it's not for you to collect. And then may mga public government na it's not for you to keep, but it's for everyone. Things like that na always a factor when it comes to privacy. Those are expected na meron mga fair and equality expectations. So in this unit, we covered the importance of written policies and procedures, lalo na in operations ng company, from a life cycle of hiring an employee to termination. May mga policies and we have given an example to explain the significance of written policies. And then we also described the basic principles of handling confidential information from individual to organization, company-wide, or even public information na for example na it is tend to be confidential instead. Then we list some privacy and usage issues while working, no, sa corporate systems, using the equipments, no, facilities, and even using while at internet and social media sites. May mga paano dyan, may mga policies and procedures, lalo na when it comes to privacy. So, hope this has been informative to you. This is the last unit. Thank you.